Today is all about wholesaling, which is super exciting because we have some wholesalers in our investor community, and they are going to be the experts telling you about wholesaling because that's not what Sarah and I do. But we've learned so much from working with these, and 1 second. Make this be quiet. Great. Hang these people up. Anyways, I hope you don't have to hear my phone ringing. But yeah, so we're just excited because we've learned a lot through just connecting with these folks. So we've got Taryn Cuen, Kevin Shinohara, and Kyler. Oh, why am I spacing on your last name? Kyler Kim. Kyler Kim on the line with us today. So they'll be our experts that are talking to us about wholesaling. So just go through our usual beginning agenda. You've got Suzanne, myself here, and then Sarah. Hello. We are both realtors here in Central Oregon, but more than being realtors, we're also investors, and we like creating community. So we have this Central Oregon Investor Network, which is meant to bring everyone together and learn from each other and make money together, really. I mean, that's the goal. That's the fun stuff. And also the relationships that we build along the way. So I think everyone that's on the call already is on our mailing list, but do you get our top picks email?
Oh yeah.
Okay, super. All right, good. So everyone, you don't have to snap the QR code, but we're just gonna roll right in. The agenda is really just talking through who's here. We love that part. Talking about the journeys, challenges, and successes of our wholesaler community. And then there's some new rules coming in January of 2025 for wholesaling because it's been like the Wild West until now. So we will be talking about what those new rules are in case wholesaling is in your future, so you can be compliant, and then some tips to get started, and then some places to take action, because we can learn all we want, and it's about actually taking those steps, which is what we do in our power hours. We host these Tuesday evening things, and like the hardest thing is getting in one of these rooms and picking up the phone and making phone calls. But that's what you have to do if you want to be a wholesaler, for sure. So we'll just start. Let's start in the room here. Would love to just hear, so everyone knows who you are.
Okay,
go for it.
I'm Summer. I'm here in Bend. I'm still an aspiring investor. I am taking action, though. I am going to take action, and I'm just here for more learning and support and action taking.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right, Pete.
What's up, everyone? My name is Pete Shockley. I'm a local mortgage lender. I'm also a local portfolio manager of a long-term and mid-term property management company, and also a second home concierge watch service, and then also do some investing of my own with my wife. And yeah, love this community, love all the value that Sarah and Suzanne are constantly pumping out there, and just learning all things real estate. So excited to hear about wholesaling today.
Yeah, we're gonna need to know a little more about what these other side hustles you have.
Good things. Good things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So second home watch.
Chambers Theory, it's across the river. You guys familiar with it?
No.
It used to be Home Fridays for a while time.
Oh yeah.
Corey was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
In addition
what was
to
going in my head. Yeah,
everything else.
so cool.
I'm on a mission to master all things except for brokering real estate. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Cool. That's good.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's folks in our community that could benefit from your knowledge, expertise, and service. Cool. All right. Well, let's go through our folks on the line. Let's see, how can I do this? So I'm going to go through our list from bottom to top. Thomas just joined. Welcome to our meeting, and we would love to hear from you if you are available to talk.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Excellent.
Great.
I think I met a few of you a couple weeks ago. My name's Thomas. I'm here in Bend. I've been here for about 8 months now. I have experience in institutional multifamily, but I'm new to this type of investing. So I'm just hoping to learn as much as I can about it.
Sweet. We're glad you're here. Thank you.
By institutional, do we mean just conventional? Like I'm just trying to track that. What do you mean by institutional?
Yeah, I worked for a multifamily fund that owned like over 10,000 doors nationwide. It was Class A multifamily, like between 30 and 500 units.
Got it. Now I'm tracking. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Super. Taryn and Kyler and Kevin, I'm going to skip over you because you'll introduce yourselves in a minute. Home buyers to you. I think this is Cherie.
Yeah, that's me. It depends on what email I use to sign on, I guess. So, hi everybody. I'm Cherie. I live in Bend. I've been doing real estate investing for nearly 2 years, and I'm looking forward to learning more about wholesaling. I've dabbled a little bit in it, but not to the extent that Taryn and Kevin do, as what full-time wholesalers probably would do. But anyway, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Have you made any assignment fees yet? Have you?
Me?
You have.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I'll work with wholesalers and then find buyers as well for them.
Yeah. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Chris. Welcome. Chris King.
Sorry, my mic was off.
It's okay.
Hi, nice to see everyone. Yeah, I'm in Bend. I work as a structural engineer. I have my own consultant firm. Mostly do structural engineering and then some inspection services. I'm looking to invest in real estate myself. Haven't yet, but mostly looking at creative finance options, but also, looking to connect with wholesalers and understand a little bit more about wholesaling.
Super.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
All right. Good deal. Well, let's dive into our topic of the day, which is what is wholesaling? And we're really going to just let our team of experts talk here. Probably should have had them in. I'm going to just scoot. Hang on one second. Bear with me as I get to the right slide. Okay, now we're going to go to our panel here and have them talk about who they are. And then we'll go back to what is wholesaling. So Taryn.
Hi. I feel like most of you know me already, but yeah, she says here I was a stay-at-home mom, and my kids are going back to school. They're old enough to go to school, and so I wanted to get into real estate investing. Always kind of had a passion for real estate, really liked it. And my grandparents are investors, and so I just kind of put myself out there on Facebook and threw a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what stuck. And I met Kevin and some other wholesalers and other investors and just dove in head first. And it took off really quickly. So I'm in escrow on my first property in Prineville, a duplex, and it's going well. It's a lot of work, but it's really fun.
Yeah. And that's the first property you're keeping.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because was my goal from the start was to hold properties. Wholesaling is just kind of an avenue for me to get there and to learn along the way and kind of get over my fear of, talking to sellers and all the lingo and stuff. So still very new.
Yeah. Well, congrats on your first deal. It's been fun to be part of that journey with you.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Kevin.
Cool. We got some more people joining, which is exciting.
I know.
So I guess I'll kind of start from the beginning. When I was 17, I started flipping cars. I've flipped 64 cars to date. Just have a problem with flipping cars apparently. And I actually just bought another one. I told myself I was just going to focus on real estate, but I just love it. So as long as I can remember, I've always just been kind of like an entrepreneur at the core. Like, I think back to when I was in college. Does anyone know where Chico State is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you know, it's like a huge party school. And so I went to Chico State, freshman year, everybody's wanting to do the college thing. They want to party and stuff like that. And I just saw this opportunity where I'm like, hey, how do I capitalize on this situation? A lot of freshmen that can't buy alcohol. Like, I probably shouldn't be telling the story, but I'm going to anyways. But I saw this like gap in the market. And so I decided, I'm like, hey, how do I solve the solution? So I had a bunch of friends that went to Chico State, way older than me. I'd pay them $20. They'd go and buy like a bunch of these vodka bottles at WILLIS for like $5 or $6. And then I'd like shove them under my bed, and then I'd sell them for like $12 each, or like 2 for 20. And just long story short, I've just always loved like starting different businesses and always looking for ways to like I guess find opportunity. Yeah, probably a bad example. This probably shouldn't be recorded, but
I know. We'll see if we can edit that part out.
yeah, we'll edit that part out. But I guess fast forwarding, I started like a video production company, photography business, fuel reduction, that kind of stuff. But ultimately in 2023, I really realized like, how do I build generational wealth? Like all these businesses, they're good side hustles, they make good money, they can be lucrative, but real estate was really like that avenue where you see so many millionaires, you see so many people building generational wealth. And that's what made me really get interested in it. So in 2023, I joined this program. And through that year, I got my first deal. Once I got that proof of concept this year, 2024, I officially launched Elevation Real Estate. We've done 13 plus deals this year alone. We're closing on a duplex. So Taryn works with me. She's helping with some lead gen on my end. And we ended up just partnering on this duplex together. We closed on a novation last week, which was one of our biggest assignments this year. And then we have 6 properties under contract now. So I'm closing on 2 next month.
Woohoo! So good. Nice. I love it. All right, Kyler, let's hear from you.
Hey everyone, my name is Kyler. Thanks for having me, but I'll kind of get going on my journey a little bit. So originally I got licensed as a real estate agent back in Oregon, 2021, then slowly got licensed the following year in Arizona. And I was so set on being like, okay, I'm going to be the Forbes 30 under 30 top producer. Like I'm going to be an agent. That's the lifestyle. And then I got introduced into investments. I got introduced to the world of flipping. I had some friends and mentors that were flipping and had good success. So end of the year 2022, bought my first flip, which was quite a trial and error process. Like you just learn so much about flipping, contractors, budgeting, time frames, supply, all of that. So that was tough. But even with that first flip, I ended up buying a second and I ended up buying a third in a very, very quick time frame, which was a rookie mistake. Should not have done that. I think when I bought my third flip, I was like, okay, the first one just hit market. Let's see if it sells. And then I'm like, wait, but I have 2 more. And I actually had a fourth opportunity that was put in front of me, and it was a manufactured home. And I actually won it in auction, which was crazy. And I won it by like, it was a few $100. So it was really close. I won it in auction, and I was like, ego me, wanting to be such a flipper and, doing this high volume. It's like, hey, let's take it fourth project. And I was like, you know what? Maybe not the smartest. So I actually looked into assigning it. I had a contractor that was working for me that was like, you know what, I would like to take this on myself. So I signed it over him for like a $9,000 assignment fee. And that was the first assignment that I had actually ever done. And it was by accident. And I was like, whoa, there's something to this. Like the cash conversion cycle is like is so much quicker. My risk is so much less, like the stress, the headache, all of it. And so fast forward from that one, I think I again, just flipping here in Arizona, fell into a few more wholesale deals by accident and bringing buyers, and kind of was like, I think this is the way. The end of February or the end of 2023, I did a little bit of a self audit and was like, okay, what was our income coming in for the year? Where was it coming from? Which channels? What was the headache, the risk, all that went with it? And in that self audit, it was very clear to me to get in to be like a wholesaler full time. So we really dove in and started to scale up a little bit.
And do you keep your licenses active, your real estate licenses too?
I do. Yes, I keep Arizona and Oregon active. I still work with family, friends, referrals, all of that. I actually
Mhm.
think the more tools you have on your tool belt, the better equipped you are because you no longer have deals that are falling through the cracks. For example, a lot of my leads that I get in sometimes, it's not their best interest maybe or doesn't work for them to sell to me as a wholesaler, like cash buy program. But there's a lot of ways I can turn the tables on and be like, hey, I'm being so honest with you. Your best interest is probably not this offer based off your situation. You have time, your property's in good shape, but I would love to audition for the role to list your property. I would love if you just give me one chance to audition. So I think the more tools you have in your tool belt, the better off you are just overall, just as like just a very equipped and knowledgeable investor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. All right. So that is everybody. Well, actually, there's 2 more people that joined, so I'm going to have them do quick intros. So, Holly, welcome. That's HJ Lyons for anyone who doesn't know that that's Holly. And there you
Hi
are.
guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I am on my patio in San Diego on Shelter Island on a lunch break. So I just want to pop in here
So fun.
and support my peeps and hear what they got to say. And I will have to bug a little early, but I'm here for what I can. And yeah, I'm Holly. I won't introduce all the other stuff right now.
We're glad you're here. And then we have Naivedya. Did I say that right? Oh, Navid? I don't know. Navidya? Anyways, welcome. If you aren't able to talk, we understand. Okay, we're going back. Sorry, we're going to go back here. Okay, so what is wholesaling? I think most people on this call probably know what this is. So I'm going to just like run through this pretty quickly and then we'll get to our guest speakers. But essentially, wholesaling is assigning a purchase contract and the rights to that contract. So how do I explain? I don't know. Maybe one of you can explain this a little bit better than I can. So can someone talk about the equitable interest component of this?
I can
And what
hop in
that
real
means?
quick. Yeah, so the equitable interest. So say that I'm buying a property from Sally. Property's worth 300,000. We have it under contract at 200,000. An investor wants to pay 240 for it. So 40,000 is your equitable interest in the property, and so you're assigning the rights to that interest, and then you have basically, like 40K spread that you can take as a wholesaler.
And are all contracts assignable?
It depends on your clause. This is where a contract is super important. Like we had a situation on the duplex that we're buying. The one deal where we're actually not assigning it, we're actually buying it. He like freaked out about the clause for the assignment. He's like, "What if you assign it to someone else?" And we're like, "We're literally buying this property." So we kind of ran into that issue. But all my other deals, I've never had issues with people saying anything about the assignment contract. One way you can kind of navigate it is like the way we have the conversation is if we purchase a property, we sign this contract, we'd have to sign an addendum if we're going to, buy it under an LLC or one of our partners may buy it. And so that's kind of a way to navigate that conversation.
Okay, got it. So essentially, you 3 are connecting the contract with the end buyer, who is an investor that is generally paying less than market value for a property. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Kyler, will you talk about the 2 main methods, how this works?
Yep. So 2 main methods for, locking up contracts. One of the main methods is direct to seller. So if Taryn owns a home and I go directly to Taryn, say, hey, Taryn, I would like to buy your property. Here's a purchase contract. It's now signed and there's an assignment clause in there. The other method that we lock up deals that is actually a free method and we do very often is direct agent. There's a lot of agents out there that have deals that are coming up on market soon. So if we're able to grab it before it goes to market, I even have done deals and have worked with people that have done deals that have grabbed stuff that is already on market. Maybe it's a stale listing. Maybe it's been sitting for a very long time and the seller's in a position where they need to close soon. So those are the two methods: direct to seller and then agent outreach.
Okay, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of both of those methods as we go through here. The cost being one of the key components. So, who wants to take this one? Just like, how do you pay for these properties? Like, what we hear a lot with wholesalers is like, wholesaling is the entry point into real estate investing generally, because you might be in a point in your life where you have an abundance of time, but not much money. So how do you come up with the money to buy these houses and then assign them?
So we're generally buying, like, on the slide, generally buying under market. If you talk to any investor, and this is actually a very good key takeaway for any of y'all wanting to do wholesale, is sometimes you can talk to actually buyers prior to locking something up. You can know what they're looking for. You can know what they're buying at. For example, we lock up most of our deals. Bend, Oregon's a pretty hot market depending on the year, I guess. Or not depending on the year, depending on the season and the time frame of when investors are buying. I'm pretty confident that I could lock something up if I take the ARV, which is after repair value. So let me crunch some numbers real quick. So if the after repair value I know comps out at 800,000, I typically know that investors might be buying at 80%. So if I know they're buying at 80%, that's 640,000. But let's back out their repairs. So if I back out the repairs, property's probably going to run 80,000. Nothing crazy, but there's quite a bit of work. So an investor's going to need it at 560. So this is just a good way to do kind of your equations, run your numbers, to think of the best interest of your end buyer prior to getting your deal.
That's a great like way to back end it, figure out like what you think it could sell for and then what a buyer would be willing to pay for it based on average repair
And that's
costs.
that's what's so important about knowing your market too, going to investor meetups and talking to people. You're going to have certain buyers that are going to be buying at different prices. That's their safety net. They have a hard line drawn in the sand saying, hey, if it's over this, I'm not paying for it. But then you have some other, buyers and be like, yeah, I'm a little bit more lenient. I'll buy at higher price points. Or if you just head over the mountain to Sandy, Oregon, maybe someone's not buying there. If it's a little bit more rural, if it's in La Pine, maybe someone's not buying at 80%. Maybe they need their deal at 72%. So just kind of the power of talking to people and understanding and really having a pulse on your immediate market.
Yeah, that's great. So then how are you paying for these houses? Like, Kevin, you said you've got 6 houses under contract right now. Like, for someone that doesn't know about the wholesaling cash outlay, someone might be like, dude, do you just have like this crazy bank account? Like, how are you doing this? So how's that work?
Yeah, one of the beauties of wholesaling, like you hear a lot of the gurus, you've probably seen like the ads, no money down, like, no credit, all this stuff. And it actually is true. Like you need some money for the earnest money deposit. So that's like saying I'm going to purchase a property. It could be anywhere from like $100 to, 5,000 or whatever. So not diving too into the weeds, but for the earnest money deposit, that's kind of your biggest expense that you have. But there's ways of being able to fund that through hard money lenders or private money lenders. There's a lot of options there. But in terms of actually like funding a property, the reason we wholesale these is because you're assigning the contract. You're not actually buying the property. It's the rights to actually purchase a property. So when you have a property under contract at a low value, the end buyer is the one that's actually going to fund the deal because they're the ones purchasing it. So you're the one that's able to get the spread between the two.
And what would you say, like, out of the deals you've done this year, like Kevin and Kyler, what percentage are people paying with like cash or cash-like instruments, whether it's hard money or private money, like when you're assigning the contract, or do you even look at their financing?
Yeah, I would say 99% of the deals that we've done are through hard money lenders. So typically the end buyer is either using a hard money lender. If you don't know what a hard money lender is, it's basically like a short-term loan. They charge like really high interest, but it's typically like 6 months to a year, or it's also known as like a rehab loan. So basically these investors, even if you're sitting on millions of dollars in cash, you're capped out if you buy 2 properties at 500,000. So they leverage other people's money. For example, like a hard money lender or a private money lender, so they can buy multiple properties and they can actually fix and flip and do multiple projects.
Nice. Okay. Will you talk quickly about the novation piece? Because do you know about novations in your line of work? Okay. Yeah, I think it's just helpful, like, because I'm hearing more about novations in various circles, so wanted to touch on that as a strategy, and Kevin has done it.
Yeah. So novations are really getting into the weeds. Like if you're first getting started in wholesaling, I don't recommend this strategy. It's a little more complicated. There's more hoops to jump through, but I like to share this strategy because as you continue down the wholesale journey, like this has transformed my business. And I think this is going to be a huge buzzword. You're going to hear it a lot. But in simple terms, a novation is a replacement of a contract. That's what it basically means. So typical wholesaling, like Sally is the seller, I'm the wholesaler. That's an A to B contract. Once I find an end buyer, I'm just assigning that contract to the end buyer. So that contract stays in place. With a novation, we create an A to B contract, so Sally and me, and then I find the end buyer, but we're going to replace that existing contract with an A to C contract. So say me and Sally have for 200,000, that's a contract, but the end buyer is willing to pay 300,000. The new contract replaces that existing 200,000, and then I get the spread in between it, if that makes sense. So there's kind of like two ways of doing novations. One strategy, I personally don't like doing them, but there's a lot of people doing it. The reason I don't like it is because it's super high risk. And that type of novation is like a rehab novation. So basically you're partnering with the seller to do a fix and flip. So Sally has a property, it's distressed, it's in rough shape, and she's having trouble selling it. I don't want to purchase that property because I have to pay high interest through my private money lenders. So I say, hey, I'll bring the funds to repair the property and then we'll flip it together. And you get this guaranteed price, I get the spread of whatever we make on it. The reason it's super risky is because you fix it up and then Sally's like, been living in this, excuse my language, but this shithole, and then all of a sudden it's updated. He's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I want to stay. I don't want to leave. And so you start running into these issues of now my money's tied up into this property and I have to deal with getting the seller out because now she has this beautiful home that she doesn't want to leave. So the second type of novation that I personally do, and which I love, and they're also very little risk, is basically you're getting an attorney in fact or a power of attorney, which give you the rights to basically list on market. So it's the same thing as wholesaling, but with the power of attorney or the attorney in fact, you're opening up your buying pool. So typically you have this investor that's paying, like Kyler said, 70 or 80% of ARV minus rehab. Though they're usually pretty strict on their numbers, but you're able to list it on the market. Now your buyer pool is huge and you're not targeting just investors. You're targeting retail buyers, first-time home buyers, mom and pop flippers. And so they're willing to pay a way higher value for the property. And the seller, it's an advantage to them because it's still a cash offer. We're still handling the closing costs. We're still making everything easy for you, but it just might take a little bit more time. And we're able to pay them a higher value for the property because we're going to sell it for a higher price.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Yes. And so we actually work with some of these folks that do this, that I don't even know how they found us, but similar to like how Kyler found us on YouTube or something, you know, these folks that do this out of Texas, they found a few properties in La Pine where they're the attorney in fact for the sellers. And then we have listed those properties on the market and we're selling them to end buyers that are like owner occupants, like folks that can qualify for an FHA or VA loan and get a home for generally a little bit less than market value. So we have been party to these novations. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting way to do it and to help a seller and to give the property more exposure as long, and it seems like a time situation, right? Like if the seller has a little bit of time, then that might be the right solution for them versus like a quick wholesale deal where you're just getting them cashed out and they're on their way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like with a wholesale deal, typically just so you have like an avatar of like what kind of people are selling a house that you're going to wholesale. They're usually very distressed or they're in a tough situation. They need to get out fast, pre-foreclosure, that kind of thing. A novation works best when they're like in between. They're motivated. They want to sell. They don't want to deal with this. They might have like bad blood with realtors or agents, or they're like, I don't want to have this uncertainty of what the end price is going to be. So if you give me this guaranteed price, you guys handle everything, then that's great. And then I think it's a great way to build relationships with realtors too. We have a property in Eugene right now. The realtor's name is Dan Gandry. I highly recommend him if you guys are in Eugene. He's an investor, but also a realtor, and he's just crushing it. Like, I'm hands off. He's dealing with all the dispositions. He's making money. I'm making money. Sally's making money. It's a huge win-win scenario.
Awesome. Yeah. Good. I'm glad we talked about that, because that's something that I think a lot of people don't know about as one strategy within wholesaling. So now we'll kind of go back to just like more broad wholesaling. And I think, Kyler, you probably got a good story here. Like, why wholesaling versus flipping?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit. I very quickly bought 3 flips and got going on all of them. And as far as like the construction, all that was pretty good. This was in 2022 when the market started to die right there. So it just dropped out from under me, and I was kind of left in a bad position. If I did the math on, let's see, there was at one point in time where I had 4 flips going on, and I believe 1 or 2 of them may have been done, 1 for sure. So I had nearly, over $1 million in leverage out. And that's a scary point to be. I mean, I was 23 or 24 and had $1 million in leverage out on 4 flips, and one of them wasn't selling in 2 different states and can only be so many places at once, right? And what went from, wow, these are going to be like absolute home run hits, started your holding costs and your time on market, and you dropping your sales price is just shrinking, and it's not a great position to be in. I don't recommend it. So the wholesaling versus flipping, it was just that cash conversion cycle of getting paid out, within 30 days. Whereas a typical, if I'm being just very transparent, most flippers probably see like a 4-month to 5-month cash conversion cycle on their money by the time you're actually done on market through negotiations and get it to the closing table. So, and the low cost of entry too is one thing that there's just no argument to be had there. What will you take? Like, if I ask Kevin, what would you take, Kevin? $1 million in leverage for 5 flips that will maybe make profits, depending if the market stays stable, or $0 of your own money, just in time and sweat equity. Let's call it maybe $4,000 in earnest money if you had 5, 6, 7 deals going on, but they could no risk, right? Less money and higher profit on the back end. So all that I think is really important. Just the low cost of entry, the faster cash conversion cycle, the risk, the stress, the headache. That's something of itself as well.
So your only risk is really just your earnest money.
Just your earnest money. And as long as you are very educated and you have contractual intelligence and you understand time frames and all that, and we're pretty respectful too, like on our operation. If we're for sure wholesaling something and we have a 10 business day, so essentially 10 business days plus the weekends, we have 14 days to dispo it. Well, if I'm not getting any traction in like the first week or so, I'm gonna be pretty transparent with the seller in the stance of like, maybe I don't see it off till 4:59 p.m. on Friday before I send a termination just to get my EMD back. I try to be very respectful of time frames and get out. So knowing your time frames and how you're safe and secure in a situation, a lot of wholesalers will only put a couple $100 down. I've done that myself, but I've also followed the 1% rule that most people do when they're buying traditionally. It really just, I guess, what floats your boat, your style of communication, and making everybody in the transaction feel comfortable.
So you're using your inspection period as your time to assign that contract, essentially.
Yep.
Right?
So my inspection period, which is usually just like a pretty much, same thing as due diligence period, but usually we're always buying as is, right? So really no repairs requested. So let's say like a 6, 7, 8 business day due diligence period. The way I kind of word that a little bit different, just so for buyers' knowledge, for my knowledge only. I won't ask for any repairs. I state that The only exception to that rule is I won't ask for repairs, but in my due diligence period, if I do bring a buyer through or a contractor through, and a lot of times these buyers will have contractors with them, and they're like, hey man, like you didn't tell me that something like the whole south side or back side of the house, like the siding on it was shot, or that you had mentioned that you thought it was vinyl windows, but every single windows, and we counted, 38 windows in the house and they're all aluminum, and it's gonna have to be, then we might do a little bit of a price reduction, but that's essentially, yeah, how we buy.
Got it. Okay. And then the bonus here, as we talked about too, is like very little risk in terms of your own money, cash outlay, and then you're making money pretty fast, like in a couple of weeks, assuming that you've got it at a good price and you can assign it. And it sounds like the consensus among the three of you is that the average assignment fee is about 10 grand.
I think it depends what market you're in. Myself and my network, our average assignment fee is actually low 20s. That probably it has to do with their negotiation style a little bit, because we might shoot for a 30, 40K assignment fee from the start, but knowing that we're leaving room for negotiation with the agent, with the seller, with the buyer on the back end when we try to get rid of the contract, that it's probably going to be cut in half, maybe even, cut to quarter. So we take that into consideration from the start. There's the saying that goes around that, big deals turn to medium deals turn to small deals just go away. So you have to give yourself like that layer of protection of just kind of knowing that it's probably going to end up shrinking by the time you actually get the paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So Taryn, will you talk to us? I know you sort of bypassed the whole flipping thing, which sounds like, oh my gosh, I can't find my mouse. Which sounds like a good solution. So talk to us about like direct to seller and direct to agent, because I know you have done both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just depends, I guess, on what you like best. Sometimes when you're first starting out, it's a little bit easier to go direct to agent because they already have an interest in selling the house. So sometimes when you go direct to seller, you have to spread this huge wide net in order to find, one deal. So if you're going direct to agent, it's also free because, the properties are listed on market. So you're able to create a relationship with that agent, even if it doesn't work out on that specific deal. There might be another property that they have in mind, or in the future, a different seller. It's also kind of nice when you go direct to agent is you're educating them on different types of creative financing. So especially in the last 5 years, creative financing has gotten so much more popular, and there's still some agents who are living in the past. And in the market that we're in right now, it's kind of tough to sell houses. It's in their best interest to know that there's more than one way to skin a cat, So direct to agent is fun and can be a little bit easier. Direct to seller is usually a little bit more work, but you're also cutting out the middleman. So you're able to talk to the person who is making the decisions directly versus going through an agent and then kind of playing telephone that way. So yeah, it just depends. Direct to seller usually costs money because you're paying for leads, whether that be through a platform or however you're getting your leads. It does cost money. So there's that too. But you can also door knock. So if you're doing direct to seller, you could door knock, would take more time. But I've done that as well and gotten a lead and sold a home that way. So it just depends.
Yeah, probably better for urban areas. Like I think about door knocking in La Pine, and it just is probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
good way to get someone out there with their guns.
We've door knocked in Redmond and just picked like one street or two streets and just knocked every single door, for like an hour or two. Safety in numbers when you're a woman, but
yeah,
just depends.
Totally. Yeah, and that's that time versus money equation, right? Of like, if you have more time than money, then door knocking might be the answer. All right, so let's move on. We're going to start with challenges. So going to Kevin, let's talk about finding your way. How did you go from like 0 to 11 deals closed and 6 in escrow?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to touch on here, and I'm really passionate about this because there's so many different people that get into wholesaling, and it's like it is a low barrier to entry, but it gets such a bad rap because it's like such a low barrier to entry. And so we've dealt with so many wholesalers that are unethical, or they're not doing things properly, or whatever. So with that being said, like overall, one of my biggest like points to getting your first deal is really building a community, like getting connected just like this. Like I wish that I had something like this when I first started. I paid for a mentorship, and it was really expensive, and I did not get hands-on experience. But really, like working with people that are doing the things that you want to be doing is going to be your fastest avenue to getting your first deal. And with that being said, like your first deal is going to be the biggest mountain to climb. Like you're unsure, you've heard of people doing it, you've seen YouTube videos on it, but you're not like fully sure if this is really possible or legal or whatever. And so, you know, just starting out, like leaning on other people is going to be a huge part of it. You're going to go through like the imposter syndrome. Like Kyler and I were talking about this last week or a couple weeks ago. Like even when you're doing deals consistently, you're like, you still have that imposter syndrome. You have like dry months and you're like, am I not cut out for this? I was talking to Landon and he was saying the same thing. Like every single day is like doubting yourself, you know? And so as you get to that next level, I think it really starts with the mindset of like, this is possible, and leaning on other people that have done it is going to be a huge way to give you that confidence to be able to move forward. And over time, you're going to go through like trial and error, you know, door knocking, cold calling, direct to agent. They all work. Ultimately, like every type of marketing strategy works, but based on your personality and your lifestyle, like you're going to find a niche that really works well for you. And ultimately, just like, again, fully recapping this, like connect with other people that are doing these deals, like learn how to do this right. It's Landon always talks about this too. It's better to get like half of a full watermelon than a whole grape. Like it's so easy to think about, oh, I want this deal to myself because it's 15 grand or 10 grand. But when you're able to be like a piece of the A to B process or A to Z process, then you get to learn like hands-on. You're getting paid to learn how to do these deals. And I think that's so valuable. So, you know, whether it's one of us or someone in your local community, I definitely recommend just being a part of that network and learning from them.
So you're saying there's like JV, joint venture opportunities within wholesaling to learn?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can JV, or you can even like do lead generation for people, or you can be like, hey, I'll bring the earnest money deposit, or there's just so many different ways that you could just fit into the puzzle and add value in your own way.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
with Kevin is we're JVing. So he's teaching me everything that he knows. And all the leads that I bring him, I get a cut of it. So it's a great way because I'm, you know, didn't know anything starting when we started working together. And so it's a great way to learn and make money while you learn with having, you know, little to no overhead.
Right. Yeah. Are you seeing some ideas? Perfect. Just looking at Summer here. Yeah. So cool. Okay. So then I think the next big one is like talking about scaling, going from that, you know, 1-2 deals to like building a team and having, you know, help doing this. So will you talk about that, Kyler?
Yeah, scaling's fun. This is where it goes from proof of concept. You've done one deal, you've done 2 deals, you're starting to understand the skill to like running a business. There's wholesaling and there's running a wholesale business, 2 different things. And so when you're in this transition phase, and that's actually where I've been all of 2023. I think Jake's on the meeting right now. So we brought on Jake. Jake is my dispositions manager. He also does a little bit of acquisitions. We have a couple different marketing channels, but scaling really is like, okay, you can do a deal, you've done a deal, you've made some money. How do you make this a predictable business? How do you make this okay, we want to get to maybe it's just 20K a month, but we want to do 20K every single month. We've had months where we've done some very large numbers, but then we go, like Kevin said, like a dry month or two, and then you're like, oh no, my cut out. But that's where this is understanding not just wholesale, but understanding a business. It's bringing on team members, dispositions, partners, maybe in the sense of not necessarily partnering and, giving away half of your business, something like that, but making alliances with other wholesalers or making alliances with people like, hey, I'll bring you my deal. You can have it at this price and push it when you want. It's just, this is a giant game of puzzle piece connecting. We are literally just connecting the dots and connecting the puzzle. And the overall picture of the puzzle is a finish line of a transaction. And the missing pieces of the puzzle or those things is where you come into place. It's where Kevin, it's where Taryn comes into place, networking with people. Suzanne, yourself on one of our deals that we worked together in January. But that scaling part is going to be the hard part of the journey. That's kind of the grind phase when you're in the trenches and understanding, key performance indicators. You're no longer just, throw in the line out there and hoping that you catch fish. It's okay. If I have 10 lines in the water and the percentage of those 10 lines, I connect with 4 of those fish, and I have 4 fish on a line, right, on 4 rods, but I'm only going to land 2 of them, or I'm only going to, net 1 of them. And so that's where this goes from just like a fun hobby game to like an actual scalable, predictable business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super helpful. And that's where when you're making more money and you have less time, then you start spending some of your money to fuel the business versus investing more of your own time, or you're bringing on more people so you have more time.
Exactly. So this is, once you understand these numbers, this is where your sweat equity might get traded a little bit for, putting a few more dollars down on the table. But for somebody that's starting out, like your sweat equity and free marketing is like all you have, and that's all you really need to go chase a deal and do some stuff. But yeah, like that scale factor that we're talking about is when you start trading a little bit of the free stuff or the stuff that costs, for the convenience of just efficiency in your time.
Yeah. Yeah. So Taryn, will you talk to us about pivoting in markets that change all the time?
Yeah. Kevin and I work in a couple different markets. So we've done, California, Northern California, Oregon, Michigan, Ohio. So you got to really be on your toes with who you're talking to. Time zones are important. But yeah, we're kind of, many people would argue we're moving into a buyer's market. And so given that it's an election year as well, kind of really making sure you're locking up deals that you can dispo, or that, like Kyler mentioned, that have a big enough spread in there that if you really need to cut down, you're still going to be making some money. So instead of just when you're first starting out and you just want to lock up everything, this guy wants to sell, let's make it work. You see that the dollar sign there that you might be able to make some money, but you spend all this time and get it to the finish line and you end up either not canceling contract or not making nearly as much money. And you could have been putting your efforts into different sellers. So really not taking everything that comes your way and really tightening up your business strategy. And we're seeing a lot of that. Kevin and I've talked about how everybody's just really taking their time and only locking up deals that are really home runs, because they're just that much harder to dispo if they're not a home run. So, and then for me specifically, being adaptable when you're first starting out, I mentioned this on Tuesday night at our meetup, but kind of just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what stuck, and working with a fix and flipper, working with a realtor, door knocking with her, like basically anywhere that I could gain experience and make some money. Working with Kevin, I was kind of doing all these different things. And I had to really hone in and be true to myself and remember my end goal. And it's easy for people to get that like shiny object syndrome, so trying different things, but then honing in on what makes you most happy. Quality of life's really important. So being a stay-at-home mom and also having a couple other jobs, figuring out what's actually gonna propel me, and how does this align with my end goal of, you know, being a buy and hold investor? So continuing to come back to your why and not spend a ton of time in all these other avenues that really aren't aligning with your goals.
Yeah, can be hard. There's lots of fun things to do out there, and keeping the focus, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. So I'm gonna just move us to like some of the nitty gritty, like the actual how do you do this piece, because I think that's like a little bit of the mystery for people that are starting out. Like, you know, how do I find leads if I am willing to pay for them? So we're going to have Kevin and Taryn talk about the direct to seller aspect. So that's going straight, you know, no agent, you're just contacting the seller. Oh, wait, Kevin, you're muted.
It's like waving my hands around.
I know you've got multiple.
Try now. No.
Oh no.
Maybe sign out, sign in.
I can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
I'm sure I will leave some stuff out, but you know, door knocking, we talked about a little bit, time consuming. Oh, maybe here he comes back. Anyways, I'll just briefly go over that. Yeah, it can be time consuming, but it is free. And it's a great way to get your first deal if you have the time. And then cold calling is kind of the same thing. I mean, if you don't want to pay to be on a dialer, you can cold call and just dial with your phone. And it's, you know, easier, but it does take a lot of time. So, but there are ways to do it if you don't want to spend any money. One thing I did want to say was when I first started this journey, it was really important to me. I had this weird thing. I'm very stubborn, and I had this weird thing in my head that I did not want to spend $1 until I made $1. And then I was willing to, you know, pay to play, but there are ways to do it, and you can get a deal without joining a mentorship, without paying for all these different websites and things. So I'll let Kevin finish.
I like that. Yeah, we got you.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I think Taryn covered a lot of it, actually. I think just like in terms of like something actionable, because like you look at this even kind of freaks me out, just looking at like all the things that you can do to like get your first deal. So something super actionable, if you have no money and you're like, I just want to try this and see how it works, I go to propwire.com. It's a free skip tracing, like list polling website. There's a different one that's better, but it's paid. So when you're first starting out, use PropWire. And then you go to truepeoplesearch.com, or what was the other one? Cyber security background check.
Yeah, we got it on one of these pages.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Cyber
so I guess we'll run into that, but you want to target the types of people you're calling. Like Taryn was talking about how she's going and like knocking on every other door. It's like you're basically just reaching out to people that you have no idea if they want to sell. So when you're using these softwares like PropWire and stuff like that, you're able to focus on like, what is the likelihood of this person selling? Like if they've owned a home for more than 25 years and they don't live in it and it's a rental, then the chance of them selling it is probably a lot more likely than someone that just bought their home. So really finding like a list that makes sense. You're going to start pulling these lists and then eventually just choosing a path. Like I'm just going to focus on calling for a month straight, or I'm going to try texting or door knocking, and eventually just finding the path like that works best for you, and then just go from there.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, and we'll talk about those specific tools and what they are. But I did just want to talk about, like, you know, how do you do direct to agent? And yeah, like the paid versus not paid.
Yeah, so when you're first starting out, I mean, this is a very good option to have. When it comes down to it, you know, agents are seeing the most deals and doing the most transactions. I think there's still I saw some percentage the other day and it was like per market, but I think overall, and I could be wrong, in the US, it was like less than 20% of deals are sold like off market to investors. That's still a large percentage, but at the end of the day, like agents are really seeing most of the deals. They kind of know what's coming up in their pipeline or what they currently have on market, what their friend has that's coming up. So being able to reach out to realtors and agents and chat with them and say, and it kind of explain maybe who you are, tell them that you're looking for, this is my buy box, this is something I'm looking for. It's free. It's a good method to go. I'm trying to kind of read through here a little bit as far as dialer. Okay, so some of the stuff you might need to call agents though is being able to get a good list. So you might be able to talk to a title company. They can give you an up-to-date list of who is currently licensed in a certain county or in your entire state of Oregon. From there, you can like input that into something. And again, we haven't talked about a CRM yet, but for those that do you know what a
It's the next
CRM
thing.
is? It's the next thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That so when a CRM is just like it's like a customer relations like management software, right? So you can do multiple things. You can send text blast, you can send emails, or you can just put in, you know, the agent, how many times you talk to them. But just going back to the free stuff, right? Like on the previous page, just go into a simple Google Sheet page and input all of those realtors. And is it going to be a headache? Yes. But is it that hard to put a column that says date last contacted? When did you talk to them? Suzanne, do you mind going? Perfect. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
So, and then, you know, finding the agent list is an important. So I would start with finding an agent list. Ask somebody that is currently doing deals, you know, how did they get a hold of them? Ask a title company. You might even be able to ask an agent on their back end in their MLS system if they're able to pull a list. From there, not every, you know, realtor is going to list their cell phone. A lot of them do, but I realize that a lot of them are not accurate. You might be a simple Google search away from Suzanne Moore, Bend Realtor, to find your actual legitimate cell phone number and having that conversation. From my experience, it is free, but the intellectual level, like it's a higher level conversation with the agent because their BS meter is significantly higher than most sellers. So your understanding of what your craft is and your skill level kind of needs to be there. I also believe though in getting tossed into the fire, you're gonna have some very difficult conversations with agents that are gonna, you know, quiz you. They're gonna, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna send over a buyer broker agreement right now, for everything for 4 months in this market. And I'm like, well, okay, that doesn't actually work. So YouTube University and understanding your craft a little bit before you start calling some of these educated, you know, agents. And again, in some of them, it's actually the complete opposite. You might chat with some agents and it's actually their lack of intelligence and their lack of knowledge in the investment field, which comes out as anger, comes out as aggression, and so being able to know what you're talking about prior to calling some agents and just educate them and explain will immediately put a touch of like human interaction on it that will take their guard down a bit. So I suggest with that, I'm going to leave off with this. I suggest direct to agent as being one of your marketing channels for sure, especially when you're starting. I think it's going to throw you to the fire and you're going to have some very difficult conversations and some realtors are going to say a lot of not very nice things. But it's going to be a very quick way for you to grow thick skin, to get your intelligence level up of, you know, what are you talking about? Because those conversations are going to be more in depth. And then it's also going to put you in front of a lot of opportunities if you know, get proficient at your conversations.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to get into this and practice those conversation points with someone that's not the seller.
I do want to say, you know, one more thing on top of that, that these can be intimidating conversations to have. Jake's on the meeting right now. But I have, you know, Jake do some direct to agent outreach. And, you know, Jake was green as of 4, 5, 6 months ago. So, but his level of conversation now from having those is like, wow, he really knows what he's talking about. Like he grew a ton. But I want you to understand that you're a value add. A lot of wholesalers will be like, well, what's my value add here? Like the agent's just going to see like the BS meter, they're going to detect it, it's going to go off. It's like, you don't understand the percentage of agents that actually do deals is not very many. And of those that do multiple deals is even smaller. So the fact that You know, if Kevin happens to be a licensed agent and I develop that relationship with him, you know, if Kevin goes a dry season where Kevin does not have a listing, Kevin does not have any pre-approved active buyers, I am always a buyer for Kevin. Kevin is about 10 phone calls away from calling other realtors, other brokerages, his principal broker, anybody in his office and saying, hey, you know, I got an investor right now that's looking for something like a fix and flip, but something distressed, or maybe you have a situation where it's not distressed, but it's just been on market and they're in urgency mode where they really need to sell. Like, what is the power of always having a buyer as an agent? I mean, Suzanne, I think you love that, right? Like, if your business was slow, always having buyers in your back pocket. The deal we did with you, Suzanne, not only Haley brought us the deal in January, and keep in mind, Haley and I have had this relationship for a while, but I didn't call Haley until about maybe like the end of November saying, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm always a buyer. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm always a buyer in your back pocket. Let me know if you come across something. It was not a week later, she sent me that deal. We finished it, I think, like right at the end of December, right at the beginning of January with your buyer. You guys got paid. Your buyer got this project that I know has been a little bit difficult, but still, like, overall, you know, potential for a great project. The seller got paid, the listing agent got paid, and Haley got a free paycheck from us. That's a win-win. I don't even know how many wins that is, right? That's like 5 wins in a row. So
Yeah.
just something to take into consideration is knowing that you are valuable and you're not just like mooching off these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's great to know too, because when we first started, like, you know, I think it was with Summer when Summer was like, I want to be a wholesaler. And I was like, I don't really know how we work together. And this was a couple of years ago when we just had never had any experience working with wholesalers until we met you, Kyler. And then we were like, oh, this is great. Like, let's do more of this. This is a lot easier and smoother than, you know, many more traditional sales. So just putting it out there, we're open. We would love to work with all the wholesalers.
Wholesale too.
Yeah. Okay, so I recognize that we're after 1 o'clock. So if you need to jump off, we understand, but we still have a few cool, interesting things that we want to run through here. I'll try to speed it up for us, but just talk about some of the main tools that you use on a daily basis for your wholesaling business and how much you pay for them.
I think so. Some of the main tools that we use. So Kevin covered some of the free tools, and I want you guys to remember that when you're looking at what we call skip tracing, which is simply just take an address, understanding who the owner is, and getting their contact information. There's free ways to do that are not efficient. You have Fast People Search, True People Search. I believe there was one more, PropWire, maybe like a couple others that are out there. Now, if you want efficiency, you're willing to dish out a little bit of money. I've had PropStream, which is at 99 bucks a month. I've had Batch Leads, which is 99 bucks a month, and I'm currently on Deal Machine and absolutely love it. And I think that one's like $129 a month. It uses the same software that I can't speak for Prop, Wire and Stream and all those ones, but Deal Machine uses the same software that 911 uses. So we have very, very accurate seller information, which is awesome. So the other day we spent time driving for dollars, marked their houses through the app, and the next thing you know, we're able to call them and they're just right here. This is the seller, this is the address, and here's their phone number. So that's something that's great. It's for data and lead gen, for skip tracing as well. And then I'm gonna let Kevin use a CRM, correct?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'm gonna let Kevin talk about the CRMs.
Yeah, CRMs. I mean, like Kyler said, if you're starting out, just use Google Docs or a spreadsheet. But I use Go High Level. I like it. I can text, I can call through it. Basically, if you don't know what a CRM is, it's a customer relations manager, and it's a way to keep track of all the conversations that you're having because you're calling so many different people. And ultimately, this game is like a game of follow-up. Like all the deals are in the follow-ups. And so when you talk to someone like 3 months ago, you're like, I don't remember Joe from, Michigan. But you look at your notes and you're like, oh, we had this conversation. We talked about these things. This is important to them. And then you're able to connect on more of a personal level. I don't have much experience with Podio. I know a lot of people using it. But a lot of these platforms, I think they're anywhere from like $200 to $500 a month. Some can be cheaper. Go High Level has like a way of being able to customize it for a business. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing paper leads, and they offer the Go High Level CRM as a part of the service. And then for texting, I'll let Taryn kind of dive into that.
Yeah, so for texting, we use Smarter Contact. And none of these are that great. I feel like Kevin will tell me the texting platforms, like none of them are that good on your phone, but on your computer, which is kind of funny because you're texting, always texting on your phone, but on your computer, the website actually is really good. And I usually will keep track of all of my leads through there. And then if it's a really hot lead, then I'll put it in into Kevin's CRM. But basically, it allows you to upload a spreadsheet, a big list into the platform, and then it will send out text messages on a basis of whatever you put into it. So like right now, I think we have 1 text or 6 texts going out per minute. And with texting, you kind of have to be, you can get flagged. And so you kind of have to go by, the, what do you call it? Like Verizon or whatever, like the big companies, like what they, what I don't know what it's called, but like their rules, the rules and regulations. So you will get flagged, and you can get reported if you send too many texts in a day, or if you send all these different rules. So you kind of have to go off of that. So it can be a little bit tricky, but once you have the text going out, it's actually, I did on a dialer when I first started. I did cold calling, and cold calling is great. You can call a lot of people in a short amount of time if you're using a dialer, but it does require you to sit at your computer for an extended period of time. The texting is really working well for me because, like I said, being a mom, I'm in and out, doing school pickups and drop-offs, or I'm cooking and cleaning the house and all these things. And so I can have my computer open, respond to whoever needs to be responded to, schedule phone calls pretty easily. And it's a little bit more seamless if you are shorter on time. It feels more like inbound leads, because most people will just tell you to F off, or something horrible. So you have to kind of have a thick skin with that kind of stuff, because I've been told to die. And yesterday somebody told me that they hope I got in a car accident on my way home. So I know. It's pretty special. But if you can laugh about it and just know that, you're not selling something, you're buying something. So try and remember that, like you are a good person. You're solving a problem. And for every, 100 texts you send out, you might get a warm lead, and that turns into an actual sale. So, yeah, I think I covered everything. Kevin, let me know if I missed anything on the texting.
Cool. And then one thing, we talked about it at the beginning, like, how do you know if your contract is assignable? Where do you get contracts primarily? And if you're going to use a cold call script, or even a texting, what kind of a script? Yeah, or like a drip. Where do you get those? You just make it up, or, so I know you all provided a few ideas here. Who did Ryan Panetta? Who used
I did
his?
not, but that is an option. I think Kevin did.
Okay, got it. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Kyler?
Oh, okay. I was just say, I think it's, good for people to remember too, that what makes up a contract. You could simply, you don't have to necessarily pay for anything. The convenience is there. I mean, shoot, you could write something on a napkin, and if it's signed by both parties and it has a time frame and it has contingencies or whatever it means, like, it could be valid essentially. But if you are looking to buy wholesale scripts, a simple Google search will tell you so much, and it will bring you to so many paid advertisements, I'm sure. But Ryan Pineda offers some, Brent Daniels. If you just start seeing of some of the big players in the marketplace, some of them will even provide free scripts, contracts. I know Jerry Norton with Flipping Mastery provides, I believe it's a free contract. You just want to make sure that your terminology is right. So not only is it a purchase agreement, that is a valid purchase agreement, but you need to have the verbiage in there stating that you have the right and/or assigns or you can assign this contract to another third party. That is, you just want to make sure you cover all bases and disclose because you would rather be safe than sorry. You could pay a real estate attorney and get your own drafted version. I don't really suggest that. That's going to be thousands of dollars. But once you get to a higher level and you're like, no, 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 I just want it to be exclusive, my document. But a lot of them are very, very similar. So just start small. Start with the stuff that you can spend $1 on, $5 on, and get a wholesale contract. Maybe buy 4 of them and compare them, and just see what they're like.
Yes, perfect. Okay, we have so much more content, which we're not going to have time for, but I want to open it up to questions at this point. Who has questions about tools or finding a deal or getting started or how this might look as a lender?
Yeah.
Any questions for these experienced folks?
Do you guys look for a particular price point or anything that makes your margin of profit?
I always say under $1 million, because they're just a lot easier to find the end buyer. Most investors, are not looking for, $1 million homes, unless it's going to be like a homestead. So, but
And you're branching out into Ohio and Michigan still?
Mhm.
Price points where I'm at?
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right, send them my way. Can't wait.
Chris, did you have a question?
Yeah. How do I get more wholesalers to send me deals
As an end buyer,
as an end buyer? Yes.
get on their buyers list.
Yeah. I send out emails. I don't get a whole lot of responses, but
Where are you
Um,
looking? Where are you trying to connect with wholesalers?
I mostly find them on Facebook.
Mhm.
Chris, did you
So
get on the list, the discount property wholesalers?
I did get on their list. Yeah,
Okay.
they've been sending me stuff.
And then Landon's also. His deals are all over the place, but get on Landon's list.
I'm mostly looking for Oregon and Southwest Washington.
All right, I'll
And-
put discount property wholesalers in the chat for anyone that's not on their list.
Chris,
I'm on their list.
I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, but and
Yeah.
I know you sent me your buy box recently, which is awesome. I think that's a huge start. Like for anyone that's in here that's looking to buy deals and they want to be a solid buyer, like from the perspective of a wholesaler, you have a limited amount of time to dispo these deals. So there's like a certain group of people that you go to first because they
Right.
have a track record. Like they're going to close on this on time. Their funding's going to be solid. And all these things. And eventually you end up like building these relationships. And so sometimes like when you're first starting out, you might have to be a little bit more aggressive, just to like build that reputation and be like, hey, I can close on this and have the funds ready to go. Because if people understand that like it's your first flip or it's your first deal, then they understand that like that, what's the word? Like when you start moving through the hoops and start moving through the process, you might get a little shaky and be like, oh, actually, I don't know if I want to do this or I don't know if I'm ready, which can create issues during like the escrow process. So that being said, I definitely recommend getting on all those lists and yeah, just having a really solid buy box of like, this is exactly what I buy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important. Other questions?
Hey, just one. So, I understood like let's say Tyler is looking for some leads from some wholesalers, and let's say Taryn is giving him some leads. So, why Kyler is coming in the middle between Taryn and buyers? Like, is it like Kyler already have relations with so many buyers, so he can just close the deal really quick?
The wholesaler having relationship with, sorry, can you just rephrase or summarize your question?
So, why there are 3 people? Like, let's say Taryn is bringing the leads and to Kyler, and Kyler is closing the deal with buyers. So, why there are like two entities in the beginning, like Taryn and Carol. Why it's not Taryn to buyers directly?
I think he's basically just asking like, why is there a middleman?
Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
Why is there a middle? Okay.
So, like, why is a wholesaler? What's the value out of a wholesaler as a middleman?
No, like Taryn is giving you leads, like whoever is selling houses and everything. So are you the buyer or are you just selling the property to buyers you already have in the list?
From title, correct? If title is giving me a leads list.
No, I think he's saying like if Taryn is calling the leads, like how Taryn and Kevin are working together, I think
Yep.
is the question, right?
Yeah.
So like, why doesn't Taryn just take the leads directly to, closing? Maybe because she doesn't. Well, I don't know. You answer the question, Taryn.
Because I'm learning and getting a deal from start to finish is quite a process. So, as far as like purchase contracts goes, finding an end buyer, even just a script on how to close a deal. It's a lot to learn. So in the beginning, it's really nice to have somebody as a mentor, that you can work directly with, that's on a smaller scale versus some of these, really big mentors, to walk you through exactly how to do it and give you tips like constructive feedback, and confirmation that you are doing it right.
Got it.
Versus
Got it.
just doing it alone, going at it alone, you're going to see. So, I mean, even just I started working with Kevin in June and I started this journey in January. And even just since June, I've seen deals go through the finish line. I've learned so much. So I just think working closely with somebody is really going to benefit you. And then if you want to later go off on your own, you've learned tools to do that.
And
Yeah,
I think
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point here too is like also comes down to scale, right? Like maybe you can achieve one or two of these a year on your own, but it really is at the end like all about community. We all build each other up. We're all helping each other do more business. And I mean, I think that's just the whole point here, right? Is like in order to get really good at this, you have to have a whole network and a whole team in order to get this done. And yeah, it's kind of the definition of whole, right? You don't want it all.
Right.
What I touched on earlier was I didn't want to spend any money. So Kevin spends all the But obviously my cut is reflective of that. But I'm happy with that because going from, being a stay-at-home mom and not making any money, I'm building it. And I was really wanting to take my time and not just jump into it where there's, a lot, it's just a lot more confusing. So.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add, Naveed, to, I don't know, did I pronounce that right? Naveed?
Naveed.
The way I see it is it's kind of like a production line, like imagine if you're building a car and one guy's doing every single part, it's like super inefficient. You keep doing that and then you might get one done, like they said, in a year or 2 years. But when everybody has like a specific role within the business, you're able to do way more volume and everybody wins as a benefit of that. And so with the wholesaling business, like in the beginning, like if you want to try it, I definitely think that it's possible to go from A to Z all the way through on your own. It might take a long time, but then you can learn everything. You might make some mistakes along the way, but that's a part of it. But really, when you start building out a business, you have like marketing, and then you have your leads coming in, you have acquisitions, and then you have dispositions. And so there's like multiple parts of the business that take a lot of resources in each individual area, and they're so different. So like even this year we tested a disposition side. So like I want to keep my business super lean and we want to be able to specialize in certain areas. And so we partnered with a company that is really good with novations, thinking like, hey, I'm willing to give up 50% of my deals if you guys do the whole back end. We lock up the deals, we send it to you, and then you do the whole dispositions back end. Unfortunately, that didn't work out well, but we both made $32,000 each. And so it's like, it creates this opportunity where each person is able to focus in certain areas. So I hope that helps in some way.
Yeah, like that actually helped for me as a beginner. The most scary part is like if I'm targeting the whole process, it's like I have to be good at this, I have to be good at that. Like that's pretty confusing and scary too. So
Yeah.
that actually
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
And it's
And
like
I
that's
think,
kind of the beauty of this because everybody has a different skill set. Like
Yeah,
some people are amazing closers, and then like Taryn, she's a schmoozer. I always joke that she's a schmoozer, and she's like good with emotions and like buttering people up. But then when it comes to closing, she's like like I don't want to lowball this guy. We're friends now. And
yeah,
so I can come in and be like, hey, like this is what we have to be at. I hate to be the bad guy, but it's like good cop, bad cop. And so like a closer versus someone that's doing the discovery calls is like very different energy and different really approach or a different approach.
Kevin, you said that it didn't work out, but you guys each made 32,000. How did that not work out very well?
Yeah, great question. So this company is doing 120,000 a month. And I really built this relationship with him because he's the one that introduced me to Novations. But this deal, so it was a $75,000 spread. I got it locked up, got it all done, sent it to them, and they just went silent. Like they finally got it on market after like 2 months of lagging, and then we go to close, and their dispositions lady is pregnant, having a baby, like nowhere to be found. The business owner, he's in Mexico, like partying it up, can't reach him. And so me and one of their sales guys just like go full in, deal with the realtor, get all the paperwork put together. And on the last day of closing, the dispositions lady, had her baby, comes back in and tries to kill the deal by adding her fee. She's like, oh, wait, hold on. We got to put a pause. I need to pull another like $4,000 out of this deal, and you've got to send it to me. And we're like, hey, this is closing tomorrow. And so it wasn't that like we weren't able to get the deal done. It was that it wasn't the partner that I was looking for. We ended up having to do all the work on our own, and they actually ended up jeopardizing the deal potentially. So it just wasn't a good partnership, is what I meant. But we were still able to get the deal done.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, definitely relationships are key.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we have so much more content. So what I'm going to do is I think everybody here is in our private Facebook group. If you're not, you should be. And if you're not, put your email in the chat and we'll add you. I will add the recording. I will add the chat log. And this time I'm going to add the presentation as well in a PDF format because there's a lot more information about the new rules for wholesalers that take effect in January, which is essentially a registration that's required of wholesalers. And so that will be important for anyone that's looking to get into this line of work. There is going to be a little bit of bureaucracy around it, which I think is good, to just put some oversight into this so that it's, because we talked about like wholesalers can get a bad rap for good reason, because there's zero oversight and regulation. And like we've got 3, and 4, including you, Cherie, like very honest wholesalers who are acting with integrity here, but that's not, you're not representative of the entire population of wholesalers. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing. So all the information is in the deck. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to our wonderful panel that has shared so much wonderful information with everybody today. And like, the good, the bad, the hard, the death threats, the, all of that, like it's all part of it. And I think you've given a really good insight into like what it actually means to be a wholesaler and how you get started, the tools you use, how you can partner together to make more and do more together than trying to go it all alone. So thank you all. Yeah. And
thank you so much.
any other questions?
No, thank you guys.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
All right. Well, we appreciate those that were able to stay with us longer, and we love having you as part of our community. So thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
This was fun.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you again soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So cute.